As we continue to traverse our way through the season of spring, and this week brings with it a chance of rain from Tuesday through Saturday, I've been left thinking about the reflections we did in Lent for 2022, including one reflection on mud. And when looking for some inspiration to share with you for this week's Thursday Thought, I was reminded of Parker Palmer's reflections on the season of autumn. And rather than reusing my Lenten reflection on mud and spring from a couple years ago, I decided to look up if Parker Palmer had any thoughts about spring. And he does. And in fact, he relates to the mud that we've talked about and the idea that mud can be mucky and yucky. In the meantime, it can be, in fact, a birthing place and a metaphor for where we find new life in our own lives as we find it in the world. And so I wanted to share some of the excerpts from his reflection, Enter Spring. In my own life, he writes, as my winters become spring, I find it hard to cope with mud. I also find it hard to believe the small signs of larger life to come, and hard to hope until the outcome is sure. Spring teaches me to look more carefully for the green stems of possibility, to look for the hunch that may turn into an insight, for the glance or touch that may thaw a frozen relationship, and for the stranger's act of kindness that makes the world seem friendly again. Spring in its fullness is not easy to write about. Late spring is so flamboyant that it caricatures itself, which is why it has long been the province of poets with more passion than skill. But perhaps those poets have a point. Perhaps we are meant to yield to this flamboyance. Life is not always to be measured as winter makes us do. It is to be spent in a riot of color and growth. Late spring is a potlatch time in the natural world, a great giveaway of blooming beyond all necessity and reason, done, it would appear, for no reason other than the sheer joy of it. The sacred gift of life, which seemed to have been withdrawn in winter, has been given once again, and nature, rather than hoarding it, gives it all away. There is another paradox here, known in all the wisdom traditions. If you receive a gift, you keep it alive not by clinging to it, but by passing it along. Of course, the realists will tell us that nature's profligacy always has some practical function, and that may well be so. But ever since I read Annie Dillard on the immoderation of trees, I have had to wonder. She begins with a mental exercise to help us understand how superfluous in design an ordinary tree can be. If you doubt it, she suggests, try to make a faithful scale model of the next tree you see. Then, taunting the realists, she writes, "You are God. You want to make a forest, something to hold soil, lock up solar energy, and give off oxygen. Wouldn't it be simpler just to rough in a slab of chemicals, a green acre of goo?" From autumn's profligate seedings to the great spring giveaway, nature teaches a steady lesson. If we want to save our lives, we cannot cling to them, but must spend them with abandon. When we are obsessed with bottom lines and productivity, with the efficiency of time and motion, with the rational relation of means and ends, with projecting reasonable goals and making a beeline toward them, it seems unlikely that our work will ever bear full fruit. Unlikely that we will ever know the fullness of spring in our own lives. And where in the world did we get that beeline metaphor? Just watch the bees work in the spring. They flit all over the place, flirting with both the flowers and their fates. Obviously, the bees are practical and productive, but no science can persuade me that they are not dancing for pleasure as well.